we have to create the right vibe, the energy, and everybody at the organization has to feel so privileged to be here. It's no other way.
Thanks for listening to the Purely Arsenal podcast. Please follow us on Twitter at Purely Arsenal FP for all the latest Arsenal podcasts.
Welcome to another edition of a Purely Arsenal podcast. It's been a few weeks. We're back to gloat about the fantastic transfer window that we're having. We're just overjoyed. Neil Shah's here to discuss it with me. How you doing, Neil?
Yeah, it's been a while for me. I know you two had a pod a few weeks ago, but it's been a while. Been in Exodus, haven't I? But glad to be back, boys. Glad to be back. Let's see how we get on today.
Got your Arsenal shirt on there. I didn't notice that before we started recording. Very nice representing. James is like me, just very neutral. See what happens this season. How you doing, James Johnstone?
Yeah, no, I'm good, thank you. Yeah, no, it was too early for me to put the Arsenal shirt on. And go with a grey hoodie. Keep it,
There you go.
Casual.
There you go. I did buy the new one, so people can give me grief for that when they say I'm giving Stan Kroenke money into his pockets. But we've spent, maybe not directly from him, but I think, we've spent a little bit more. So we're going to talk about
directly from you.
Yeah, directly from me. Exactly. When people say, I don't care how much we spend, it's not our money. It is our money. Because we're a self-sustaining model, so it's exactly our money, really. And when it comes to Arsenal, you do have to be a little bit concerned, I think, with how much we're spending. And we're going to get to that because we're going to talk about the transfer. Since we last finished, because me and James were on about 3 weeks ago, I think, and we basically said, Neil wouldn't have liked it. We said, White's done, Lokonga's done, and Tavares is done. None of them were announced, and they all happened, Neil. So that's what happened. And then now we can discuss the signings. Yeah, poker face. Yeah, but we can discuss the signings now because they've officially been announced, right? If this was a day ago, Neil would not be willing to talk about it until it came up on the old Arsenal Twitter page. But now we can just discuss it. My Zoom thing's going crazy. Hold on. So now we can discuss all that. So let's talk a little bit about the transfers. Let's start with Neil. Neil, we've spent roughly, we spoke about it pre-pod, about 130 million. What's your thoughts overall on the signings, just to go through with them if you need a little bit of a review? Obviously, you haven't had a chance to see some of the players yet, but Ben White's come in for 50 million. Tavares is in for about sort of 10 million as a backup left back. We've got Lokonga in as a central midfielder for 20 million. And then just recently, we've got Martin Odegaard back on a 30 million deal from Real Madrid, which seemed like it was our number one target. And then Aaron Ramsdale, who's got a lot of mixed reports and reviews from fans that maybe, James watched him a lot. I personally haven't seen a lot of him, to be honest, so I'm not going to judge him as yet. But a goalkeeper, big outlay for a goalkeeper, we'll say that much, no matter who the goalkeeper is. I think it's the sixth most expensive goalkeeper ever. I think. So that's where we're at with it. So, Neil, but what's your before we sort of discuss, obviously, the poor start to the season, and there's mitigating factors there we can discuss. What's your thoughts on the overall incoming so far in the transfer window and how it might look coming into this season?
To be honest, I'm not overwhelmed. I don't know why I'm saying this. Normally we get excited by transfers and incomings, and especially with Arsenal because we're not known to be the club that makes big money moves, especially if we haven't got rid of players. And to find that we've spent 130 million, or whatever it was that you were saying earlier, Jack, I'm not overwhelmed. I don't know whether that's because of our season that we've had and the poor start we've had. I know it's only one game, so don't beat me up, fans. It's just one game, so I get it. But I don't know why. I feel happy for the fact of Odegaard because we've seen him. I presume it was one that we always wanted to get anyway. And we've seen what he can do and what he can bring to the table. And I am excited about the two youngsters, Tavares and I'm probably saying their names wrong, and Okonga, isn't it? But then again, I'm not sure how much of those two players he's going to utilise. We'll wait and see. But it looks like overall he is starting to give the youngsters a chance. We saw the likes of Balogun make an appearance. We saw Martinelli start. But then was that due to the illness of lack of
released now. It's confirmed. They just waited 10 days.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, I don't buy it at all. And let me just quickly start a quick overview of all of them. Ramsdale, firstly, I want to say the abuse he's received is unacceptable. Don't like that.
Yeah, fans being idiots.
That is a joke. I don't think they're fans. I just think they're absolutely disgusting. I don't like that at all. If you're not happy about a player, you're not happy about a player. You don't have to sit there slamming him and abusing him. It's not that far off to what Saka received. After the penalty miss, it's a different level, but it's still abuse, and I don't like it. So I'll put that out there straight away. I read a little bit about him, and he's been at 4 or 5 different clubs. Sheffield United, then he went back to Sheffield United in the end after going to a few others, and he's getting all the abuse because all the clubs he was at were relegated or something. It's not exactly all his fault, is it? A team relegation is down to a team and its management. It's not just down to the goalkeeper. So I find that a little bit odd. But he did win awards, I think, in the seasons that wherever he played, Young Player of the Year and all of that stuff. And he is liked. I don't know too much about him. James probably know a bit more, and he'll obviously tell us his thoughts. But I just think just give the boy a chance. At the end of the day, he hasn't played for Arsenal yet. We don't know what he's about. Is Arteta going to play him or not? Is he still going to favour Leno and then Ramsdale will just be on the sidelines? We'll have to wait and see. But let's judge him when he plays for Arsenal. That's all I'm going to say. The other, Ben White, I don't know. I like him, but I don't know too much about him. I know of him that he seems to be suited in a back 3 formation rather than a 4. So it just really depends again on how Arteta sets the team up. And this is my thing. I was saying earlier that, it doesn't matter the level of players that you bring into a squad. They could be Messi and Ronaldo, Mbappe, Neymar. You can bring in all the world stars. If you don't play them to their strengths and you don't play the right tactics or style that suits their play, is it going to make much difference? I don't know. So it's really about how Arteta comes about this season and what he does differently to last season with the new acquisitions he's got and the players that we already have in the team. How does he play them? Does he play them to their strengths? Does he form the right mix of players? So for me, I need to see a bit more of that before I can judge the signings. Like I said, Odegaard, we know about him. He's had some games where he hasn't really been in the mix, really. But then we've seen him into other games where he's been brilliant. My worry initially, remember James, I used to say, I don't want him usurping Smith Rowe. And then we saw Arteta play them together in a couple of games, and it kind of worked. But he's now been given the number 8. Smith Rowe is a number 10. You guys know better about the mix of players and the formations, but I'm glad to see that. I don't want him taking over his Smith Rowe, because for me, Smith Rowe is the number 1 in that position. Has to be all day long, although Odegaard can play there as well. So having that playmaker, box-to-box midfielder, Smith Rowe is kind of like that, but Odegaard maybe can fill in some of the gaps that we've been missing of making that creativity, giving us that creativity. So we'll wait and see. Not disappointed. I'm glad he's there. But I'm not overwhelmed. And then again, with the other 2 youngsters, Tavares and Okonga, I haven't seen so much about them, but what I have seen, I like it. They're fresh, they're exciting, they're full of energy, they're moving forward, they're confident, I think. So overall, as I said, not overwhelmed, but not unhappy either.
Yeah.
That's me.
Yeah, let's I see where you're coming from with a lot of those. So let's go with the newest. Obviously, we discussed the first 3 a little bit, James, on our last podcast, didn't we? And we'll go back to, obviously, seen a little bit of Ben White now, and we've seen a little bit of Lokonga, and I've liked throughout pre-season what I've seen with Lokonga, and even against Brentford, I would say was probably one of our sparks alongside Smith Rowe, to be honest. Obviously, it definitely looks like he's ready for Premier League football. Now it's just about how he progresses, and I want to see more of him, really. But let's start with Odegaard. James, you were obviously, we were talking a lot about the options in creative space. We knew we were going to get someone in because we did it in January, right? So like Neil says, you don't want to limit Smith Rowe, but and there was strong reports, but it was going back and forth about Odegaard being the number one target. But then obviously James Maddison came into it, who would have obviously been a bigger outlay. I think that there's no doubt for me, like whether you felt Odegaard was your number one choice or not. I think it's a really good deal if you look at the age profile of the player, the cost that we put on him when there was talk about 55 million earlier in the window. And then, our outlay for him is pretty good. And the fact that he's proven, I think, to a certain degree, that he can integrate whilst not limiting Smith Rowe's minutes, right? I mean, a lot of the times he was playing, and when he played at his best, if my recollection's correct, Smith Rowe was also in the team. Yeah. So those games that I'm thinking of are Leeds at home, West Ham away, Spurs at home, and even in the Europa League, I think people forget, a lot of those away legs at Slavia Prague and Benfica, he was really important in those games. And then he got injured for the Villarreal first leg, and he came back off the bench for the second leg, and that was the only time we started to look like scoring in the whole tie, to be honest. So what's your thoughts? What do you think he'll bring to us, James? Obviously, maybe it wasn't your ideal number 10 target, or creative target, but it does seem like it was Arsenal's. And I think it's fair to say almost for every position, it looks like we have got our number one targets, whether we agree with them or not.
Yeah. See, that one in terms of creative player, and it was like, Odegaard was the plan all along and everything else. I don't necessarily buy that because of the Buendia link. And obviously the bid for Buendia went in. So that to me is like, well, he clearly wasn't the first choice, because if he could have got Buendia done, we'd be talking about Emi Buendia now. We wouldn't be talking at all about Odegaard. I think what happened is obviously when we got outbid for Buendia, obviously we went back to the drawing board, and probably we looked at it thinking, Odegaard's going to cost us about 55 mil. But then to get him for the price we did, which I think is cheaper than Buendia cost, like you said a minute ago, that is an absolutely sensational deal. And I think for a player of that age, again, a bit like how Lokonga was captain at Anderlecht, and I believe he's been captain at under 21 level of Belgium. Martin Odegaard is Norway's current captain. So we're a club that lacks leaders. Okay, they're young leaders, but at least they're going and doing it. Do you know what I mean? At least they've got somewhat experience of doing it. And Odegaard, for me, I think for that price and for what he can bring, it's a really, really great signing. I know we don't want to tread back on the game on Friday as best we can. However, there was so much during that game where it was the same old Arsenal before Odegaard got there, where it was primarily being played sideways, mainly to the left, because we're very left side dominant for whatever reason. And Kieran Tierney's crossing a ball, which they're brilliant crosses, but we've got no one on the end of them. A player like Odegaard, for as much as I love Smith Rowe, and I think Smith Rowe's brilliant, Odegaard, when he's in that position, where he's got a bit more flair and creativity to him than Smith Rowe has. I'm not saying Smith Rowe doesn't, but Odegaard clearly has just a little bit more because he's a bit more of a specialist at it. He will bring defenders towards him because of how good he is and his range of passing is, that will free up wingers like a Martinelli, like a Saka, like a Pepe, and give them the space to go into that middle area and either cut it back or shoot themselves. So I'm very, very excited at the prospect of him being there. And like you said, I don't think it will curtail Smith Rowe because they've played together. And I know that Smith Rowe now with that number 10 shirt probably doesn't really want to be a wide man. So it's all about managing the minutes. But no, I think it will work. And I'm really happy and excited for Odegaard to come back because I think for that price and for the quality of player that he is and his age profile, we're going to have him here for quite a while, hopefully, and we can enjoy him because we need him. We need that kind of player desperately.
Yeah, I think I saw a stat that says he created a chance one every 42 minutes, which was by far. I think Smith Rowe was second with 65 minutes. So, like you said, he is a bit more. The only reservation, because obviously Odegaard was, as we talk a lot, it was probably my number one target in the whole window, no matter what position, really. And the reason for it was mainly because I feel his technical level is a lot higher than pretty much all of our squad. Not that, that's not necessarily saying anything, but it really is more of like a Wenger-like signing. I feel, he's very comfortable on the ball, play everything through him, and he's willing to make those incisive passes rather than the donut of shame, as Tifo Football, was it called on YouTube, called it, where you're just passing in U shapes and doing the Xhaka passes out wide to get your 98% pass accuracy. But I think one of the players that could benefit the most from Odegaard playing, other than Smith Rowe, could actually be Aubameyang, to be honest, because when I remember Odegaard, and that was the only time I really felt Aubameyang central under Arteta worked, was when Odegaard was playing at the 10. And the only reservation I really have for Odegaard is that I do really feel he is an out-and-out 10. Whereas, like Smith Rowe, when you watch him, you can move him around that front three and he still seems pretty effective. But, I mean, I don't know about you boys, but whenever I watched Odegaard and whenever we played him, I felt like we played him in a 10. Which didn't we, right? Which may throw up questions.
He played wide right for Sociedad quite a lot. However, we got Pepe and Saka there.
Yeah,
we don't really need anyone to play wide right. So
no, which makes you wonder if we ever do switch. Like, let's say for this weekend, which we'll get to, if we switch into a back three. And I know Odegaard's not cleared for this weekend because of visa issues and things like that. But how would he fit into that system if that was something we were doing, more long term? Because then you basically take the 10 out of the equation, which was the trouble early on what Ozil had, wasn't it, when he was removed from the team?
Yeah, I think what he would do potentially is where obviously this weekend probably it's going to be Lokonga in there. I think obviously Partey coming back, but I think he would play Odegaard as sort of a number 8 in that fight.
Or he could put Smith Rowe there,
Yeah, and try and manipulate that sort of area as a sort of the, higher up centre midfielder type role.
Yeah. But it's definitely, I mean, that signing specifically, I think, certainly a certain amount of credit goes to Edu because he gets a lot of criticism in fairness, and I think rightly so for certain areas. But now, Neil, so we made those 5 signings, right? Which, to be honest, whether we agree with the signings or not, we do have to say it does look like in terms of incomings, the club has had a plan and they've executed the plan so far in terms of incomings relatively well, right? I think someone said on another pod that, it looks like we've pretty much, gone and got the players that we've wanted, basically. I know you said with Odegaard and Brendia, and you're right. And there was also links to maybe having a bid with plus player for Maddison as well. So it's hard with that one. But in terms of White, I mean, we were in for him for weeks, weren't we? Tavares was done relatively quickly. There was no one else in for him. Lokonga, same thing. So it looked like we went and just got our kind of first choice purchases in a lot of these areas. Ramsdale obviously been talked about all summer long, hasn't it? No matter how much we try to deny it on this, but no. But it was being talked about. But Neil, now with sort of 10 days left in the window, do you expect any more incomings? And if you do, where would you like them to be?
Yeah, I don't think we are complete yet. The biggest one for me is right back. We've got 4 or 5 players 5 players that can play in that position, but is any of them any of the player that we need? I don't know, and that we should have. Niles and Cedric for me are probably the 2 of the best of the lot that we got out there. Niles, we all know about Niles and his unwillingness to want to play in that position. He wants to play in the centre. Cedric, I've got to admit, when I've seen him play, I think he offers probably overall the most out of all of them. But I could be wrong. I've always liked Chambers, but I'm not so sure. I don't know if he's got the pace that we need. So for me, right back, I think an outstanding right back is what we need, because I feel that from what James alluded to earlier and what we've been apparent for a long, long time. When we've been playing down the wings, it's always been our right side the left side that's been dominant. We don't have to speak about Tierney. We all know what he's about. But our right has been lacking, and I feel that has had an impact on Pepe as well. I thought that Pepe started really coming into his own towards the end of last season. We started seeing what we paid for. I've always liked Pepe. I still have a lot of faith in him. And I just think that this season could be his season, but he needs that backup behind him. If he doesn't have that backup, it kind of takes away a lot of what he could do. And I just think that if we can enhance that position, then it will help Pepe as well as help the team overall. So for me, a right back is kind of paramount above anything else. Where else could we see a position for me? I'm hearing a lot of talk about a striker, but I don't know if both of Laka and Aubameyang will go. I think maybe one will go if there is going to be a departure. So aren't we quite already filled in that position where we've got the likes of Martinelli that can step in. We've got Balogun now. I know they're not tried and tested as much as we may have liked them to be. But I think we've got enough. For me, I think we've got just about enough in the forward lineup, especially if Laka doesn't go. They're still not 100%. So for me, possibly someone to come into that position. But then again, even if we do get someone in a position, are they going to get much of a chance? And are they going to be thrown into the reserves, or are they going to sit on the bench, which is going to do them no favours? I just think for me, it's the right back is the paramount at the moment, from what I can tell. I think everywhere else, we're okay. And to be honest, I've got to put it out there. I think we have a squad, even now, even if we don't get anyone in, I still think we have a team capable of doing all right. It's just the way Mr. Eyebrows sets them up and how he plays them. That's what it is.
Yeah, and I think that's where people feel they're a little bit underwhelmed. They know the coach, manager, is under a lot of pressure. A lot of people now, I think, are really lacking confidence in just believing in what the philosophy or the lack of system and the lack of style that we're seeing. And now the signings are coming in, and you look more at the squad in terms of the contracts that have happened under Mikel Arteta, and it's really about as much his squad as it could be after being here for only 2 years. I mean, I said, I don't think anyone's been backed this much in a window in my time.
Jack, he's the most backed Arsenal manager of all of our lifetimes. And also to that, he's had 4 windows. Out of signings or renewals, he's done 23. 23 is a squad. So all of these people that keep going back to, it's the Wenger players, it's the Emery. This is his team now. There's nowhere to hide. There's no hiding. He hasn't been backed. He has. He really has. He's other than the 2 Manchester clubs, in all the 4 windows that he's been here, we've spent the most. Only the 2 Manchester clubs have spent more than that. He's been backed. And he's made poor choices. Let's have it outright. He's made some poor choices. But when you either bring in and renew 23 players, you got nowhere to hide any. This is your team, Mikel. So show us. Because like I say, I'm here well happy to be proved wrong. But this is the time now. This is it. With all this money that we've spent, anything under top 6 for me is a humongous failure.
And that's not asking for too much.
No I
way.
don't think so. No,
it's just not.
I've lowered my expectation of top 4 to top 6. If anything, I've given you an allowance.
Yeah.
But yeah,
and I agree with that entirely.
I know you're laughing, Neil, but that's the reality of it. I'm sat here as an when did we ever think as Arsenal fans we'll go, I'd love top 6?
I'm not, as I've always said, I don't laugh at you, James. I'm laughing at the fact that you're right. I'm not.
Yeah.
No. That's how much we've fallen from grace. It's ridiculous. I was, and I've been talking to so many people over the last few months, and especially after the game only on the other day. And we all come to the same conclusion. Everyone I speak to say the same thing. We all say, All we want is a performance. We don't even, it's not even about winning anymore for us. It's about a performance. How bad is that? I remember the time where I would be so upset with a draw. Think about it. I wouldn't accept a draw. I'll be depressed for the next 48 hours if we drew. Now it's about not even drawing. We just want to see a bloody performance. That's the difference. And that's really sad for a club such as Arsenal.
Yeah, and like I said before this window, although I'm excited about the transfer window always, no matter who the manager is, I think the biggest thing you can do is get a manager in that has a really, really clear identity about how they want to play. And that doesn't require big purchases and lots of changes to me. I mean, it just doesn't. Most managers, if you look at them throughout history, they make those changes in terms of the philosophy of the team very, very quickly. They might not always win games, but you see the style early on, right? Look at Jurgen Klopp when he came to Liverpool. His results were patchy in that first sort of 8, 10, 12 months. Same with Pep Guardiola. It was very evident how they were playing, why they were playing that way. They'd make mistakes at the back and things like that and wouldn't press the way they want. But it was very, very evident. And that is not clear from our point of view at all. There isn't you could argue real basically that, okay, when we can, we try to play out the back. But beyond that, it's not a style to just keep going down the left side and whipping crosses in. That's not a style. That's just, that's not. There should be a real method and way that we want to play and way we want to sort of progress the ball. And we're not seeing that stuff. But the hope here and where the signing's coming is obviously better players, hopefully, can implement something on the pitch that we're just not seeing that from the manager and the instructions not getting there.
Do you think these new signings, obviously we talk about the age and the profile, do you think that's been specifically done from the point of view of that he can have time with it? Because obviously when you're younger, you're a bit more receptive, especially when you come to a new country and like a new league and everything else. Do you not think that that's been specifically done? Because I think these older players are either, I don't really want to listen to you, mate, anymore. So I think that's why it's been done as well. I think the ages that we're looking at, because I think if we sign a right back, for me, I think he's going to be between at least 21 to 26. I can't see this Trippier link being that. I can't see it personally. And then I think up front, I think it's going to be someone that's 21 to at least 25 as well.
Do you worry though with that? I mean, I do agree, and that's what makes me think that we're in it for. Have we lost Neil? Has he just turned his camera on? That's what makes me think
he's probably got to refill his water bottle or something.
Got to refill, but that's what makes me think we're talking about maybe a possibility of changing of the manager if things change. But he's been so backed not only in the players coming in, but in terms, like you said, of an actual specific agenda in terms of I'm going to buy young now. We're not going to do these things like Willian and we're going to stop this, which is I'm absolutely fine with that, by the way. But that feels like it's a real backing of this manager to see this process through, because these players clearly aren't going to peak this season. So it's about seeing it through. And that what made me think that unless things get really, really bad, they're going to support this manager through.
Oh, yeah.
And I'd rather that than be half-assed in the middle in a way. Do you know what I mean? Either sack the guy or back the guy completely to the hill until you fall off the cliff, I guess. But the worry is I don't want to fall off the cliff. But I think my biggest reservation, like Neil said, James, is I do think I think it would be hard to complain about this window at this point anyway from Arteta's standpoint. But from a fan standpoint, I think we've got absolutely every right to complain if we stop at this point. And the reason for that is you cannot really justify the two purchases of a 50 million outlay for a centre-back when at the time of the window opening, from the season ending, we had the option of renewing David Luiz, right, which would have been a cheap option, or you might have had to increase his wage a little bit, but it would have been a cheap option in terms of no fee. Or you had the option of actually having one look at your 28 million centre-back from France, who seems to be doing very well for every team he plays for, everything but Arsenal. Immediately when you decide not to do that, which people have continue to tell me, hey, he's the manager, if he doesn't want to go, that's fine. But immediately when you decide not to do that, that means you're going and making the centre-back position an absolute priority. You didn't spend 10 million, you spent 50 million on a centre-back to replace a 28 million centre-back, basically, to fill the boots of that void in that position. So, and there was no doubt in my mind that a right-back was a far greater need than a centre-back when you looked at the squad at the end of the season. So it's just not justifiable from my perspective to not get a right back in this season. And then when people argue about, well, he's got 4 on the books, what do you want him to do about it? Cedric was bought under this regime. So that is this regime's problem. Sort it out. And Niles was kept under this regime. So that's also this regime's problem, Mikel Arteta's problem. Sort that one out. So I personally am like, people saying, we've got 4 on the books, don't you? That is their. They need to deal with that problem. Loan them out, pay them off, whatever you need to do. Because I think, like Neil said, right back is important for Pepe and Saka. I think it's really important for Ben White. I think it's more important than we even realise for Ben White. Yeah. I mean, there was a Brighton guy on Twitter speaking about how much better he was when Lamptey was playing. And then when Lamptey got injured, he was a bit iffy. And he didn't look great against Brentford alongside Chambers, did he? Let's be honest. No. So, I mean, no one did. So I'm not going to judge him too harshly.
Well, that's the thing. You've spent a 50 million outlay on a young, like I said, a young centre-back who's probably receptive and is willing to, learn and hopefully work in this system we play in. However, he has gone from a team where he's been in a back 3, back 5, whatever you want to call it, with 2 absolute massive people.
Units.
I mean, I'm a Lewis Dunk fan. I've tooted that guy's horn for years, but him and Webster very rarely lose aerials. And now we're expecting Ben White, who we've seen it with the goal that was scored. He's not very good in the air. And I mean, David Luiz, for all of his faults, was quite good in the air. That's one thing I would say is he's not that bad in the air. But we're expecting him to do, what Luiz did with the progressive passing and everything out. But he's not used to being in a 4. So he's got to adjust not only to obviously playing for Arsenal and playing with these different players, but adjust to being in that 4. I think Sunday we will revert back to a back 3/back 5, and you might see a different game from him. I'm hoping. But in terms of the Saliba decision, it goes back to what I say about these fans, where there's a lot of them that go, oh, you can't throw away that outlay on Aubameyang. He's got to stay. I've said it before as well. I say the same. I've changed my mind. I've watched him and don't think he's going to score. He just doesn't look like scoring at all at the moment. So I've changed my mind on that one. But I don't think as a club, Arsenal can throw away a £28 million player. I know that it was under a previous manager and a previous regime, but I don't think we can write off nearly 30 million quid.
But I mean, we're doing it, aren't we? You're right. Yeah. But we are doing it because his value's decreasing, even though he's playing well in France, but his contract's dropping down. So his value's decreasing, and we've given his number away. We're not recalling him. We're not recalling him under Mikel Arteta. No chance. Someone else maybe, but we're not recalling him under Mikel Arteta. Which again is fine.
I think he made his mind up.
Yeah. Yeah, he's got an issue. He's got an issue with him, probably beyond football as well. Yeah, and I think that's another thing with Mikel Arteta. I mean, I was very supportive of him. When he removed Guendouzi and he removed Ozil. You can only do that with so many people, though. Like as a manager, you got to pick your battles a little bit. It does feel like Mikel Arteta has quite a few, like you said, the senior players. That there's just mutterings and signs. Can't wait for the Amazon documentary of falling out, basically. But I agree. I mean, and that's what makes me think that if we are going to be a back 4, which he does seem to prefer generally, that the right back needs to be quite good aerially, and he might need to be not necessarily the whippy right back of a Lamptey. Or of a peak Bellerin, which is way gone. It might have to be someone that is agile, but also able to handle themselves aerially, which is why I like the Bologna lad, because he's basically a right centre back a lot of the time, but he plays right back, and he can really handle himself. He's a strong unit as well, and really fast. But But so those are signs. Neil, in terms of sales, I mean, we're talking sales. I mean, what are you expecting to exit in the next 10 days? Because, I mean, obviously you just open the door and let everyone out if you could. But realistically, who are we looking to get rid of? Because you got to think not just about trimming the squad, but who do you really not want around that squad? Because he's very big, isn't he, on sort of a group being together, similar mentality, all being really supportive of his methods. Right, it's why he loves beyond the football, why he loves people like Tierney and Xhaka, if you like, because you know they are, fully behind him. So who are you expecting who are you hoping to leave?
I was expecting Xhaka to leave, but he's not going anywhere.
I've come to terms with it, unfortunately.
Could William go? But no, that's not going to happen either, is it?
People are hinting at that a lot, but no one's in for him, but hinting at that a lot.
Yeah, but I still think he's going to be stubborn with that because that was one of his first... was it his first signings? One of his first signings, I can't recall. But anyway, let's move on. Yeah, there you go. Kolasinac, please. Please go. We don't need a bodyguard anymore. Sorry, James.
You used to love him.
Who did? I did. No, I loved Gabriel.
It's before we knew more.
Yeah.
He's joining Ozil at Fenerbahce, apparently, by the way. But carry on.
Is that what you've been? Is that true?
Apparently, we're terminating his contract and he's going straight to Fenerbahce to join Ozil. That's what the main link is at the moment with Kolasinac, yeah.
Fair play. Well, they're pleased for him because he's good friends with Ozil, so I'm pleased for him in that way. Sorry, James, but Nketiah
Eddie
would be one. Now, sorry, I touched on the strikers earlier. We have bought that kid, haven't we? Was it from Fulham? It's supposed to be amazing.
Yeah, but he scored for the under-23 yesterday.
Did he really?
I think he did, yeah. He's supposed to be very good, but obviously I think he'll spend the season with the under-23s mostly.
Oh, God,
17 years old, isn't he?
He's 17 years old, but he looks like Rooney when he was 17, basically.
Yeah, that's it.
Throw him in. We need goals.
He does, though, doesn't he? He genuinely looks 32. Unbelievable. But I think he's basically a Balogun replacement because Balogun's been promoted. But
yes, agreed. Who else is there? So let me think. So the right backs we were mentioning, Bellerin, he's got to just cut ties with it.
Real struggle,
surely.
Yeah.
So Bellerin, maybe one of the other right backs. I don't know with Niles. I mean, for his own sake and his own sanity, is it good to keep Niles at the club? I don't know. I just don't know. So, but whether we cut ties with him is a different matter. Where am I thinking? Midfield. Who's in our midfield? That maybe El Neni. I don't know. I mean, I think are we going to be? Are we now top heavy now in the midfield area? I'm not so sure.
Apparently, we're going to keep him.
Are we really? So
apparently, that's what they're saying because he's got a year left, and I don't think anyone's. Well, he's not got a huge wage, but I don't think we're planning on doing anything to the central midfield area now that Xhaka's staying. I think Lokonga is kind of it.
Okay.
That's according to the reports.
What's happened with Runnison? Is he still with us?
Yeah, he's still with us. He's got COVID. He's isolating. He's we've told him to isolate for the season. Actually, I'm joking.
What was that about? I mean, what?
Yeah. See, let's go back
just
to
every 10 days. Just keep pinging his app. Oh, you've got to go and get. Oh, you're still ill.
Yeah. Oh no, another close contact, Runnison.
Where else are we missing?
Who do you think we get money in for, though, Neil? So Eddie Nketiah, I'd hope we get some fee.
Niles, I think Niles and Nketiah, they're the two that I would say we get some money in for. If we're struggling to get rid of someone like Bellerin, because I would have thought, despite all the talks about Bellerin and all the negativity about him, I still think we could have got a fairly decent amount for the guy. But realistically, Eddie and Niles would be my two, where we might get some money in because the youngsters. Obviously, we've got rid of Willick. If Willick hadn't gone, we may have been talking about him. But I know you didn't quite agree with me, Jack, but I'm a little bit sad about him, and I don't know whether that's because of a good run with Newcastle. Maybe he came out of his shell. Maybe he showed everyone what he could do. But then it could be because that style suited him. And Arteta's style won't suit him. So it could all be, yes, we'll keep him. Look how good he is. He stays with Arsenal and all of a sudden it goes back to normal again. So for his sake, I'm pleased for him. But it's sad when you see a kid being brought up by Arsenal as a little youngster. It is a little bit sad. But then I think, we've got to go beyond the sentimental feelings with players. We've just got to be cutthroat, and we've just got to say what's best for the club as a football team. So fair enough. So for me, Eddie and Niles would be the two that could bring in money. But I guess you guys will have more to say.
Yeah, no, I agree with those two definitely, and I agree with you on Willock as well. It's a difficult one. I do see him probably doing quite well at Newcastle, to be honest. But it was literally the only player that we've had a genuine, proper offer for. I mean, look at, you got Lucas Torreira out there, who we were lauding a couple of years back, and not only can we not get a fee for him, he's somehow getting paid to basically do a world tour. I mean, it's unbelievable how we've got to stop. And I think Arteta's probably partly to blame here, basically canning people's value. Do you know what I mean? I mean, if you look at it, you said Eddie and Niles, but both their values dramatically drop, really because of what Arteta's done with them, right? I mean, he decided not to sell Niles, which at the time I understood, but I didn't think he would not play him again, and which is basically what happened. And then Niles decided he was still playing secondary school football and wanted to play up front for a bit. He put me up top, mate, and all this sort of stuff. And then same with Eddie Nketiah. I mean, as James sort of liked him, but I mean, the timing-wise, we've known for a while Eddie Nketiah is not going to probably force his way through the first team. And in January, he said definitely not for sale. When he was asked about it, Mikel Arteta, absolutely madness. But James, do you think anyone else but Niles already is going to get us some money in that maybe can fund the right back or wherever else you think we need a strength?
Yeah, I mean, you talk about what you just said there with Niles and Nketiah. There was at least 45 to 50 million quid on the table collectively for both of them. So you had a 20 million bid from Wolves for Niles, and you had 25 million on the cards from West Ham. And I've got that on good authority from obviously Dagenham and Redbridge got quite a good link with West Ham, so I got a few.
That was in January, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah,
that was a straw because they sold that Haller bloke.
Exactly. So I'm like, you had a good opportunity there to recoup quite. I mean, to be fair, the Odegaard signing has only really come about because of the money being there from the Willock sale. And like you said, Neil, it's upsetting to see your Howland boys and, these young boys that have been at Arsenal since they were 8 and everything else go. But for me, like you summed it up perfectly, he doesn't fit in with this system. Steve Bruce, even though I think Arteta's desperate, Steve Bruce reeks of desperation. And I think he's just literally rolls the balls out and goes, lads, just win me, just do me something, try and win me a game. I don't think he's got no real tactical nous to him. I think it's just a case of run around, and if you get up there, if you get in front of my strikers who are useless apart from Wilson, smack it yourself. But if it goes in, great. If it doesn't, we'll just keep going until we hopefully score. But it wouldn't surprise me, and I know Arteta's a huge fan of the player, except we never see him. I think Nelson is another one that could be on the way out. I think Nelson's another one that, if someone comes along with a cheeky, anywhere between 15 to 20 mil for him, I think
the problem with him is he's only got a year left.
Yeah.
So I can't see us getting I think it's personally, except for like Eddie and Niles, I'd be surprised if we get 10 apiece for them, to be honest, at this point.
Yeah.
Just because, there's just nothing coming in. But
no, I think it's really hard. I don't think anyone with the right frame of mind is going to buy Willian outright. So you're probably going to have to pay him off, which is going to cost us a ton of money. But that's the thing. I've said it on other podcasts as well. Sadly, with however good that Ozil situation was, you set a precedent there where the players go, well, I'm just going to bleed the money out from you until you pay me to go. Because they've seen that Ozil do it, so they think they can do the same.
That's what Kolashinak's doing right now, isn't he?
Yeah, exactly.
Just waiting. Yeah,
exactly, which is really, really difficult and annoying. But for me, I think some of these players, I think you've got to also sort of force it. So where we've strengthened, I think it makes these people realise for definite, like, no, you're not in any of the plans. And I mean, Torreira gave a great interview where he's actually come out and said, look, my life has been turned upside down. I wasn't really settled or happy in London. However, now I'm in a better frame of mind. I've accepted the circumstances that's obviously happened. Obviously I'm still grieving for my parent and everything else, but I'm ready to come back to London, settle down and start again. But Arteta's just flat out gone, I don't want you. So, and sadly, the only links for him are Italy, and they are skint. Most of the Italian clubs are. I mean, people go, oh, Juventus have got money. Well, yeah, but they've just loaned. It's bloody Locatelli from Sassuolo's pretty much. Yeah, you're a 2-year loan, and then when we get money in 3 years' time, we'll buy you.
This is why the other leagues really annoy me as well, because there's no way that would happen in the English league. But there's no way, let's say, for example, Tammy Abraham to Arsenal, there's no way they'd go, yeah, all right, we'll let you loan us and you pay us in a year. Doesn't happen. Yeah. But in other leagues, the top teams just basically tell the bottom. Sassuolo was top 6 side, wasn't it, last season?
Yes.
Just tell them what to do. To do. Unbelievable, isn't it? But,
yeah, well, as much as I do like the old Serie A, it's got a history of favouring certain teams with funds and
a little bit of corruptness there. I'll tell you what, just to go slightly off topic, we say we're annoyed as Arsenal fans with things, there's going to be Stan Kroenke out protest. I don't think there can be any fans that are quite as annoyed as Inter Milan fans at this point. I mean, I know they won the title, but they've just gone and sold their best right back for 70 million, and they've sold their best striker that they've ever had, probably, to Chelsea for 95 million. They've replaced him with 1.5 million, Eden Dzeko, and Dumfries, who's decent, but for 11 million. I mean, imagine that happened at Arsenal. You'd go, you'd have an absolute mutiny on your hands.
Their owners have gone bust, so that's...
Then they obviously got rid of their coach that won the title. I mean, that is insane when you think about it.
To see the price that Dumfries went for, you look at him and go, why, we should have been all over that.
All over that, yeah. But he looked very good, didn't he, in the Euros?
He's a really good player.
All energy.
And he would have settled with us as well.
Yeah, I think the only thing people were saying was
that.
Yeah, and he wasn't. I mean, on that price, he was probably bought in pretty cheap, so we would have had a say in it.
I think these links with Aaron's are quite promising, and it wouldn't surprise me. Norwich desperately need someone to score goals because Pookie's really dried up. He's getting on a bit as well, so I don't know if we would go, Eddie and money for Aaron's, because I think Aaron's isn't really over the 25 million mark anyway.
Interesting. I don't know enough about Max Aaron's, to be honest. Yeah. I hear a lot about him. He's English, isn't he, Max Aaron?
Yeah, I think it's
never
a case
really featured, has he, towards...
I think it's a case of another young English player that might be more receptive to what this manager wants.
Just on that, though, do you have a little concern about going too young everywhere and not having the leadership maybe from senior players in certain roles? Obviously, we do have certain seniors like Xhaka and Aubameyang, but they're the ones that we've really come into question. I mean, I don't know what you think about that, Neil, but do you have any concerns that I'm fine with going young. I'm quite supportive of it at times, but you do need that mixture. Do you have a concern that maybe in this window we're almost going too much to one side and that maybe one or two players with a little bit more experience that went into the first 11, especially at places like perhaps centre-back where we've got a 21-year-old and a 4-year-old or something, Gabriel, that we might be just going a little bit too youthful and not have that sort of leadership and guidance?
100%. Life is about balance. And I think when I think things work well, you've got a balance. You've got moderation everywhere. You've got balance everywhere. And I think that's what we've missed. And now it seems to be going from one extreme to the other. I'm all for youth. You know this. I mean, I've been crying for the younger players to get a chance. And to be fair to Arteta, that's one thing he's done. So I've got to give him, credit for that. He's giving them a chance now. So good on him for doing that. But I do feel, and I'm still going to be very old-fashioned about this, and you've heard me say it 50,000 times before, we lack leadership, and I want that leadership being centralised and a focal point in one player. Everyone's going, yeah, but we've got leaders. I don't want leaders all over the pitch because it becomes too dispersed and saturated then. Because those younger players, if things are going wrong, they're not going to look at 5 players to say, oh, are you going to, G me up? Are you going to tell me it's okay, we can still win this? You have that one mouth, that one person that will bark at orders at you, that will say, come on, lads, what are we doing? And we still lack that. And, you know, you guys mentioned captains. We've got captains at the club. I still don't see any leaders there. Even in the new crop, I don't. The only one that potentially comes anywhere close for me is Tierney, and it's certainly not Aubameyang as a captain. And all right, maybe it doesn't even necessarily have to be the captain. It should be. Maybe it doesn't in this new modern era. But we still don't have anyone really that can say, you know, what the hell are you doing? So I'm old-fashioned like that. And I do feel that, you know, despite Luiz's criticisms, he was that one of the older heads, that one of experience that could have helped. Even Lacazette as well, apparently is a good mentor for the younger players. So no, I don't want to go down the route where it's all an under-23 team that we're playing. No, of course not. I'm very happy that we're invested in these younger players because it sets us up for the future. But for how long, for how many decades it feels now that we've been playing for the future? You know, we heard it when we had the likes of Theo Walcott. Yeah, but this is for the future. You know, that's 18 years ago or whatever it is. We're still now saying we're planning for the future. We always feel like we're in a transitional phase. I'm fed up of it. I want to start being successful. I'm not a trophy hunter, but successful in the fact that we can look forward to a game, and we can look. I'm not even enthused about tomorrow. You know, normally I'd be like, oh my God, it's Chelsea tomorrow. Let me get myself sorted out and planned how I'm going to watch it, where I'm going to watch it. It's like, oh yeah, playing Chelsea tomorrow. It's changed for me, that dynamic. And I want to go back to the time where I can look forward to games and with enthusiasm and feel that we are performing. I just want to see that performance. I want to see the fight from all the players, and I do want to see a leader on the team. And whether this change with all these new personnel, we see someone emerge from that, let's wait and see. But yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think it's too extreme.
And you got the manager in his press conference yesterday as well, talking about, you know, in 2 or 3 years' time, when you find out how difficult I had it, you'll look back and thank me or whatever. I don't think that's productive. Like you said, Neil, it's 15 plus years since we've even won the league. It's too long. I know we've had all, you know, stadium move and debts and everything there. It's too long. It's too long. And okay, the FA Cups are great. I love winning the FA Cup and what have you, but that stadium still has a lot of bad feeling towards it. I mean, the paint's chipping off of the sides. That's another thing the Cronkies have got to look at. They're talking about investing. You've got to invest off it as well. That stadium needs more than just a lick of paint. I think it needs to be completely, you know, maybe redone up. And you've got to associate winning titles in that ground, because still so many people, me included, miss the old one.
Yeah, no, he's got a lot to prove now this season. It's all on him. And that's where, so we talked briefly, and obviously stuff came out about the Brentford game about 4 players, 2 of which wouldn't have even been in the squad, but 4 players testing positive for COVID. Don't really get the lack of transparency. I mean, Kolasinac tested positive, Gabriel El Neni last season. It was announced very, very quickly. There was a bit of a vagueness with Aubameyang's malaria stuff, but that was because they were trying to figure things out and they weren't really aware themselves, I don't think. Obviously, you had family stuff going on, which is completely understandable. But the COVID stuff, there's transparency with COVID because everyone needs to know about it. It's a public health issue, so the other teams can be affected and things like that. So making people aware of it, there's nothing wrong with that. And we've done that in the past. So when they bring it out now, of course, like Neil, you're going to have skepticism about it and start to question it. But ultimately,
do you believe Aubameyang did?
Well, I find it a little bit strange because firstly he says they have, then I know I know all the stats, but then he says, you know, the whole team or majority of the team's vaccinated. And I'm like, well, okay. So that's it. But also I don't really, because when I find it a little bit difficult to believe, but I'm not really sure how they can announce something like that without it being truthful.
I don't know all the rules and the regulations, but in the pictures that were released Thursday, he's running around in those, you know, lime greeny type shirts, Aubameyang, and he's in quite. I'm like, does that class as close contacts?
Well, I think he was cleared, right?
Got certain.
he was cleared because of a negative test either yesterday or Thursday. Aubameyang, which again is a bit strange because the requirement isn't to have a negative test. The requirement is to see out the isolation period. So that's a bit strange. Yeah. That's not the requirement, because if it was, you wouldn't be seeing a lot of these players because they don't test negative that quickly. So it's a bit strange. So I do find, and when he was asked about it at Brentford, this is really on Arteta. He was so vague and off, like put off by. He was like, I don't really know what's. He was very vague on it, which made you suspect it.
But if the Premier League have said you can't mention this because it could jeopardise. We've promoted this. It's the first game back.
It's possible, I guess.
Yeah, but surely the public health need.
No, don't
make aware of it. Yeah,
overrides.
Through enough now.
The public health need overrides.
Yeah,
the game. And as much I love, me, we're sat here talking about. I love my football, but surely that outweighs that.
Of course.
I don't know. It's too. For me, it's not clear enough. It's too grey. It's too grainy still.
What started off the closure? What started off the initial closure? Ironically, it was Arteta.
Yeah.
And then that shut down. And that's the importance of it. And then now all of a sudden, it's almost used as a almost like, we'll use that as an excuse because we don't really want to. It's a bit odd why they're not being paid. I'm not saying it's not true. Look, I'm being sceptical, and I just feel that I think there's something more to it. I mean, I've heard things which really reinforce that feeling in me, and I don't want to say it on air, but I know that.
Go full David Icke, Neil. Come on.
No, I can't. So,
well, I think it's because things haven't been quite right with Aubameyang and Arteta since the Spurs game, right? So then all of that raises questions, and ultimately, I mean, if we're questioning it, in the next 10 days, something's going to happen in the sense of one or both of them end up going out the door, right? And I don't think we'd be that surprised if it was Lacazette, but I think there'd be a fair amount of people that were surprised if it was our captain in Aubameyang, even though I wouldn't necessarily be still. But, if the claim is right and that he's fit, then I expect him to start on Sunday if he's fit, because we really don't have a striker that's experienced to fill in for him, right? And so that will tell us a little bit more. But there seems to be, I mean, if you remember after the cup final and certain games, him and Arteta were the first ones to be hugging and talking post games. I mean, I've not seen that a lot for a while, I don't think either. So, there's definitely something different there.
Tweeted the picture of them together going, my manager.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, exactly. We're miles away from that now, aren't we?
Oh, yeah, it's a long time, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So I definitely think there's some differences there. How big they are, time will tell. Because if we somehow get a striker in this window, I mean, that's the writing's on the wall for Aubameyang. Then I think.
I just don't think he can handle the big egos, mate.
No, and that's why I said. But I get worried about a manager that's not picking his battles. I mean, you get one or two. Even Mourinho is someone like that, but he only picked one or two. Like he'd go to Chelsea. Do you remember when he went to Chelsea? And I think Mata was the player of the season before,
he
bimmed him, and everyone was like, "Whoa!" But he only did it to one player, almost to make a stand. Did it one player, and everyone else was behind him. But if you list out the Arteta ones, it's a lot of people that have gone on his wrong side, isn't it? I mean, Guendouzi, Ozil, right? Mustafi maybe just, to a certain degree, right? Socrates maybe not, maybe just sort of ease him out. But there's a lot, isn't there? And then Aubameyang comes into it, and there's quite a few, Saliba, that you could start to list. It's quite crazy, isn't it? But obviously, I don't like it. Even if it was COVID, of course, that's serious. If it was, certainly shouldn't be using an excuse for that kind of performance or claiming the game should be off. I mean, people have had to deal with this since the start of last season when fans weren't in the stadiums. West Ham had cases and they had to play games. Liverpool did, and they had to play games, and they went on and won those games at times or lost them, but didn't use it as an excuse. So I don't want to use it as an excuse. We shouldn't be doing that. It's a really terrible performance. First ever Premier League game for Brentford. You should be going there and winning that game. Doesn't matter who you put out on that pitch. And with all due respect to Brentford. And even if you're not, you should be dominating that game. And I know we had something like 22 shots, but when you watch that game, it didn't feel like we were dominating that game whatsoever, did it? So I don't really want to touch on it unless you boys, too. It was just a very, very poor start, wasn't it? I do want to touch a bit, obviously, on this Sunday's game because there's always hope, I guess. James, what do you think about? You said you want to match up. Obviously, I think Lukaku's going to start, which is keeping me up at night. To be honest, it's so scary. But you said you would start with a back three, but personnel wise, what are you thinking here? Ramsdale's in the squad. Odegaard isn't. I think that's all I know, really. And Aubameyang should be.
Yeah. I can't hide from what I've tweeted about Ramsdale. I'm guessing it might have been saved somewhere for people to come back.
Screenshot all of
and attack me with. But for me, you've made that outlay now, and it's a clear indicator that he's your number one. You see him as your future number one. So start him now, because Leno has been here, the whole 19 months that he's been in the rain. Before he got injured at Brighton, I will say he was arguably one of our best players, if not, on course to be player of the season that year, until Aubameyang obviously single-handedly won us a trophy and then won it himself. But the decline since that emergence of Martinez has been rapid. And it's not only in terms of his positioning and his shot stopping that's declined, his actual, ball playing, which is what our manager wants our goalkeeper to do. And I think Leno's too scared to tell him, no, I'm going to go long, because he's going to get bollocked when he gets back in the changing room. I think Ramsdale is obviously younger. Like I said, could be more receptive to it. And you start with him. So I would throw Ramsdale in at the deep end personally and go, you're starting in goal. And then in terms of the wing backs, this is very difficult, because I'm like, for however good Alonso was with that free kick that he scored the other day, the guy defensively is suspect. And I believe Chilwell is still a week or so away from properly coming back. So it's a case of, at right wing back, do you go for a Cedric that's a bit better and, he's got the whippy delish? Or do you go with a Saka or a Tavares and just try and just run them? Sort of the game plan that we had for Man United away, in that it's just all the fast players and we'll just see what happens. We might nick something. So that's really difficult. But yeah, I 100% bring Rob Holding in, because that's the guy that loves the duel, loves the battle.
He's the only one, yeah.
He's arguably the best in the area out of all of our centre-backs that are available. Mari, I think, still keeps his place, even though I can't see him playing Tierney as a left centre-back and then maybe playing Tavares on that side. So I think Mari's going to stay in there as well, just again for a presence and an aerial thing. And then, I think the midfield is obviously going to be Xhaka and Lokonga, because who else? And then I think Martinelli might start up front, which I'm happy for, but I do sort of feel bad that Balogun, you had one game only, and now I've thrown you to the side. But, he could come on. And then obviously you got to go Pepe or Smith Rowe, or Pepe or Saka.
Yeah. I tend to agree with pretty much all. I want the Ramsdale thing. I think I expect Ramsdale to start midweek against West Brom is a natural starting point for him.
Really, and the wing back one's really difficult.
Yes,
really
I actually agree with you on the wing backs. I'd go Tierney, Saka, to be honest, because it gets Saka. Obviously, Saka has to play. So, but in terms of that lineup, we did it against Chelsea away, didn't we? And I thought it was a bit weird, but we did it again. I think we played Saka right wing back against Chelsea away when we won 1-0. I think we did. And that was the first time I was like, but obviously you'd rather have a right-sided wing back, but because all of ours are rubbish, we need to find something different. But I do definitely agree with you, go back three, and with the holding decision. I think when you think about Lukaku, obviously Gabriel's unfit. I'm scared for Ben White, to be honest, directly on Lukaku, because I'm not seeing it yet. And Mari just isn't. I don't know. He's looked really poor in pre-season at the start of this season, Mari, hasn't he? He looked a lot better last season. So
it's upset me. I backed him, and he's in.
Yeah.
He's terrible.
Yeah, I know, it's weird. Hopefully, too, he's having a real tough time of it, isn't he? And but we've kind of got to stick with him. Neil, do you give us any chance? And what are your thoughts on fans being back? It sounds like there's still quite a few tickets that are there to be sold. That's got to be concerning. Now, I understand with COVID and stuff, but it's 18 months away from the stadium, and here we are. And we might not fill the stadium against Chelsea at home. I mean, it's unheard of, isn't it?
No, it's not the COVID for me. If we'd shown something very different against Brentford and we'd whipped them and won comfortably, I think you'd have seen a different outlook with the stadium. I couldn't believe it. Someone WhatsApped me the other day and go, "Do you know there's still tickets available for Red? Now they've gone on sale to Red members." I'm like, "For Chelsea? Are you kidding me?" That was unheard of back in the day. I remember when I used to try and get tickets for the home games for the big teams, they'll be sold out within minutes or at least an hour. You couldn't get them. So this is quite well. Actually, I'm not shocked. Actually. So that's where we are with it. Let me quickly answer the Arteta fans. He's in for a wake up call. Let me tell you that now. I feel that. And we've all said on the WhatsApp group, the fact that he didn't have fans, we had empty stadiums all of last season, I think has saved him. I really believe it. The performances we were, forget even the away games, how bad we were at home. There was that period where we couldn't even score a goal. Unheard of. Arsenal can't even score a goal. What is going on? Can you imagine the fans' backlash at the full-time whistle? And I think he has been very, very lucky. And now it's time for realisation. And if it carries on, I'm hoping it doesn't, but if it carries on in the same way the way we're playing, he's going to have nowhere to hide. Nowhere. And he's going to now feel full force of the fans. And that's what worries me. I like the fact that he's a young manager, but the problem is, mentally, how is he going to be able to deal with all of that? I think Wenger did very well when he was getting all that stick from those idiots. And, he still had his head up high. He was very classy, but he had the experience as well. Arteta hasn't got that. He's half the age of what Wenger was when Wenger was about to go. And I feel that it's going to affect him. So, yeah, that's going to be interesting. And what was the other thing you asked me about how we think we're going to get on? Well, if Martinelli does what he does when he scored against Chelsea that other time, yeah, all right, there was a fortunate slip. Yeah, I know, but it was still a cracking goal. I'm not too worried if he plays up front in the middle. I don't know. I mean, yeah, I get it from Balogun because, I'm a big Balogun fan as well. But I think now I'm comfortable with Balogun because I know that he has been given his chance. He's got a contract. I think I'm okay with it. I think he will switch and play a little bit more Balogun stroke Martinelli. But I'm not too worried if we play him. If Aubameyang's not going to be in there, it's got to be Martinelli, hasn't it? Or Balogun. And I think it will be Martinelli. So I'm quite happy with that. And I don't know. I think we're so unpredictable. We go from being absolutely rock bottom and then all of a sudden we play a big team and suddenly we get a good result. So I think because of that unpredictability, we might be surprised tomorrow. And I don't know whether that's just me being hopeful, because as scary as Lukaku is to all of us, I think you guys might be onto something with Holding, because he did a job. He's done the job before. He seems to love playing Chelsea, number one, like Bellerin does, to be fair. And also, he seems to kind of grow in stature against the big clubs at times. Holding does. So he could relish. He doesn't relish those one-on-ones, doesn't he? And he could relish that challenge against Lukaku. So we might be able to stifle him in a way. So I don't know. I'm hoping we might have a bit of a surprise. But at the end of the day, we've all said it. Just want a good performance. I want to see us fight for the full 90 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we'll probably plan for the back three for the next two games because of the City game coming after it. So I would presume that's what he's going to do. He could always surprise us and play a back four, but I'd be pretty surprised with that, to be honest, especially matching up against Chelsea and knowing what that like. And they look really strong, obviously, Chelsea. I expect them to win the league probably this season. So I think it's going to be a really tough game. But James, anything else on the Chelsea game and your predictions?
So sadly, I think we're probably going to lose 3-1. I'm sorry to bring it down.
We scored a goal at home
after Neil's motivational speech.
Mate, I'll just edit my bit out. It's okay.
I've said it before. I've made my feelings heard. I'm very, very worried. The only one thing I will say to caveat it is that Arteta seems to be, when he's absolutely at his, death's door, he does seem to pull it out, don't he? He does seem to luckily just escape.
Just to keep his job for a few more months.
Yeah. But the main thing you said, Neil, and I 100% agree with you, mate, like I normally do, is he's had 9 days. So he's had 9 days with these players after that terrible, I want to see a reaction. Like Brentford losing out on these 50-50 balls and these second balls and everything. Like there was just no bravery. There was just it was so passive and weak. I want to see Arsenal in front of our fans, properly. I know we had the pre-season games and everything else, but I'm like, this is proper Premier League. Okay, probably going to be empty. That's it's quite sad, but I want to see a reaction. I want to see some heart, some desire, and bollocks mainly. Just I can take losing as long as we've had a go, but if we completely just roll over and let them tickle our belly, then I dread to think what I'm going to say if we do another podcast next week, because I'm going to be fuming.
I know, and worry a lot if we concede early, to be honest. Worry a lot anyway, but worry a lot if we concede early.
Like I said, Alonso's sus, so I'm like, just run them, just have a go.
Chilwell's out, is he? Chilwell's out.
I think so. I think he's still, yeah. But I mean, that Chalobah that played for him, that's come through, really good player, mate.
Centre back,
really good player.
And they're still going to buy Koundé probably. Brilliant. Neil, what's your predictions? 3-1 loss for James.
Well, I firstly, I'm going to say I think Chelsea are going to win the league. I think the writing's on the wall already. So fair enough. So at least we can say we lost to the champions.
Well, we might do it Leicester. We might beat the champions twice. You never know.
Could do. And do you know what, James? Just to quickly add, I hope we see a reaction also from the fans being there. But I've got this horrible feeling the Chelsea fans are going to be louder. I just got this because obviously they're European champions as well. They're going to give that to us. Oh, it's going to be horrible. But let's see. Let's be hopeful. What can I say? I don't know. I'll be stupid. I'll be a little bit optimistic. I'll go for it, which is 1-1. There you go.
1-1 draw. Another point to safety.
I will take it.
Another point to safety. Yeah, absolutely. I'll go a 2-1 loss. But, I mean, I think that's another thing, after that loss, because you really expected to beat Brentford because you knew what the running was like. And now it really leaves him no room for error. And, I don't personally expect any sort of managerial change early, but it would really be hard to justify if let's, for example, lose this and then we lose West Brom. I mean, at that point, it's going to be really, really hard to justify. But then it's just really hard for me to see us backing him so strongly.
He's not allowed on the bus if we lose to West Brom, mate.
No, exactly. But with the backing so strongly, I mean, we say this, though. Frank Lampard technically was backed with 250 million and then sacked a month or two later. But then I wake up and remember that was Chelsea, and they do that every year, and we do it, once a decade. So then I realised Arteta probably get a new contract and a new title and new wages, and him and Xhaka will sign it together on Arsenal.
Be nice to see Arsenal spend 250 mil.
Yeah, well, you know what, mate?
Can you imagine? Jack, you said it. Can you imagine if Wenger had this money? Oh my God, we would have won. We would have won the quad then.
I know, it is incredible. I'll tell you what's really incredible, Neil, is that we've spent it before any real incomings of sales other than Willock.
Yeah, it's very strange.
That makes you think that the money's there, because you know what Arsenal are like. That makes you think the money is there anyway, in a way.
Of course it is.
Of course it is, and which makes me believe that maybe our business is not done, because if we are doing 1 or 2 sales, but we've done all this work before it, and we've been so comfortable in pushing an outlay, let's say for even a goalkeeper, that, let's be honest, could have easily been another Matt Ryan for a year, who would have been cost us nothing. So if we're so comfortable doing that, we're either literally so fed up of Leno it's unreal, or we're going, it's fine because we'll be able to do our other areas anyway.
I know they're heathens and what have you, but I think he's literally gone to his dad, old Joshua, and gone, Dad, look, the Super League thing, they're really angry. That little phone call thing that we had, they're really angry. And he's like, Dad, you might have to, I know you don't like it, but I think you might have to spend some money here, Dad, to try and, this is a good earner for us. This is a great portfolio piece,
Sorry, James, I don't buy it. I don't buy anything what Josh comes out of that.
They want to protect that asset, mate. So they're like, look, make it look like we're doing so. Plus, like I said, that Amazon, all the cameras being there. There's no, like I said earlier, there's no hiding for the manager. There's no hiding.
Absolute joke.
You watch. We're going to see it in about the first or the second episode. They'll have Josh and all their Medu over here.
Yeah.
They'll have a phone here, a phone there, one above the head. What do you mean? Oh, my God.
Yeah, just imagine it already. I mean, already you've had 4 players with COVID announced 10 days after they got it. You've gone to a team that's never played in the Premier League and been battered. You've spent 129 million. The next week, Odegaard coming back in. Imagine watching all that. I mean, already the first episode is going to be like Prison Break. I mean, it's going to be, you're going to go, I've got to watch the rest of this tonight. Unbelievable stuff. I mean, it could really be such a circus that it's going to be unbelievable views.
I'm so disgusted by it, mate. Oh my God.
Neil, we get 10 million for this Amazon doc. Okay, and that is paying for Lucas Torreira's wages.
The most important thing to me is who they select as the fans to represent, because they always have fans in all of the documentaries. I'm like, please, I don't think they're going to have any of that lot involved. So
really?
Yeah.
Really?
Oh yeah, 100%. Mate, they sent them a cease and desist from using that title. They changed from being Arsenal, whatever, to AF. Yeah.
Yeah.
You remember when he first started, he was having interviews with the players, with Ivan. Oh, I'm going to show you utter contempt, but you can pretend you like me, Gazidis.
Mm-hmm.
So, they come full circle on what they thought about them. So I cannot see them in a documentary that's promoted not only by Amazon but also by the club having that lot involved.
Yeah. Yeah, well,
there'll probably be some new ones that we'll all go, I can't stand him.
Yeah, exactly. The fan. Well, Neil, you need to get down to a few games, mate. Maybe you'll be on the fan team.
I haven't been asked, so I haven't been asked.
No, me neither. The overseas one. So, look, it's Chelsea Sunday, and then obviously it doesn't get much easier. Well, we got the West Brom League Cup game, and then we've got Man City. But I said at the start of this, I think we both did. We were looking at really 10 points from the first 6 games, because I think 3 games after that is something like Norwich, Burnley, Spurs, or something around that zone. But you were really banking on us beating Brentford at that point, and then now it really looks really, really difficult, and a really difficult task for him. And like you said, the reason fans aren't so excited is probably because of that, such a poor start and poor showing. But also, I think a lot of fans are struggling to really identify, where what the intentions are of this football team and how they're going to play game by game and week by week. And with that, you lose faith and you lose trust in the process, or the lack of, if you like. So he needs to nail that even more than results, because clearly, to the board, the results aren't that important currently. So if they're not, then let's really see the philosophy and the process and start believing in something, because if the results were important, he wouldn't be here anymore, let's be honest. So we need to see that, don't we? So he's been backed fully no matter what happens in the transfer window, I think that's hard to argue with, to be honest. So I don't, even though we've had an excuse as of yesterday about the Brentford game, from now on, no more excuses, Mikel Arteta. Well, no matter what happens, no more excuses. But hey, boys, if we can get top 6, like you said, that's our goal, top 6. Then I think we'd all take it now. Top 6 and a good cup win, FA Cup. Bite your hand off for that right now, wouldn't you?
Yeah, 100%.
Fans are telling me I'm being too unrealistic again. Sorry. Oops. Never mind. But boys, it was fun. Let's come back after the Chelsea. If we batter Chelsea and holding elbows Lukaku in the ribs, sends him back to Italy. Go on, son. Get out. It'd be great stuff, won't it? God. All right, boys. Thank you. Up the Arsenal. Thank you for tuning in. We're on at Purely Arsenal FP on Twitter. We've got at LL Cool James 91, at Jack Tenguna, and Neil, your Twitter handle changed. I've lost it off the top of my head. At Guna. Go on.
Underscore NS, I think it is.
Underscore NS.
For this week. It might change next.
Well, this week, Neil's got 26 different Twitter accounts.
Oh, yeah, right. It's
Neil
@Guna _70NS. Sorry.
Underscore 70.
TNS, yeah.
But if go to our at Purely Arsenal FP page and you'll see all our Twitter handles on there. Obviously, Miss Michael today and Anthony, thank you for always uploading the podcast. We do appreciate you, and hopefully we can get a mic back on and do a foursome talk. But I know my timings are off, so it's my fault completely. Blame the time difference from US to UK. But boys, we're going to be chatting a lot on Sunday. Hopefully a lot more after the game with excitement, but not when I'm on my breath. Up the Arsenal, boys, up the Arsenal.
Come on,
you guys.